People who were the reasons for certain rules. What is your story? So, in my high school, there is a rule that was added my junior year and is even in bold in the student/parent handbook. This rule was that students are not allowed off campus during the 10-minute passing period at all. The reason that this rule exists is that my sophomore year I was really craving a Starbucks during my first period, so in the last few minutes of the period I mobile ordered a coffee, and then during break ran half a mile to pick up my coffee and walk back. I made it back to my class on time, but the school still tried to get me in trouble until I said, "Show me where it says I can't leave campus during the passing period in the handbook, and I will accept any punishment. Otherwise you have no grounds to punish me." And after 20 minutes of sitting in the office I got out with no punishment. Then my junior year that rule was added to the handbook. To this day it's one of my worst accomplishments. When I was younger, 3 or 4, my school had a large field near the entrance where we'd walk across to get to class from our drop-off room. I decided it would be funny to try and run away. My brother did the same thing a year later in the same year, and that's when they introduced a fun-colored rope everyone had to hold onto when going to and from classes. They banned doing handstands at my primary school because we used to play the game where you'd sing a song and go up into a handstand, and when I went up, for some reason my arm just gave way and I landed on my shoulder and broke my collarbone. I saw my old teacher a few weeks ago, and apparently that's the handstand story equivalent of the boy who swung back on his chair and cracked his head open. When I was going into 6th grade, my family was moving to a new town. In order to prevent myself and my brother from having to go through the hassle of moving and to alleviate some of their stress, my parents decided to send us to sleepaway camp for 6 weeks. My brother, 2 years older, proceeded to get extremely sick within the first week or so that we were at camp. He was on bed rest, and at more than one point the staff had to bring him into the small town nearby to go to the hospital. My mother had a tendency to overreact and make mountains out of molehills. She was extremely unhappy with the staff and thought it was outrageous that my brother got that sick that quickly, assuming that someone must have showed up to camp on the first day knowing they were sick and spread the germ to my brother. Luckily, he recovered after the first week and was able to enjoy the rest of the summer. When the term was over we left camp, excited to see our new house and meet the people at our new school. Fast forwarding to the next summer, our parents saw how much we enjoyed camp, and decided that having us out of the house for a month wasn't so bad for themselves either. Instead of driving us this summer, they decided to send us on the buses the camp ran to different counties and states. The total ride was about 4 hours, an eternity for a middle schooler with a surplus of energy. Once we arrived at camp, the buses all line up and there's an in-processing tent set up where all the kids had to walk through before they could get their bags and go to their cabins. It was taking forever. I started to get irritated. I had waited all year for this and now I have to wait more. I finally get off the bus and into the tent and see what they are doing. Each camper is getting asked a series of questions about their current health. Are they feeling sick? So they have any allergies? Do they have any prescriptions, etc. They would then get their temperature taken by the nurse to confirm they did not have a fever, and were sent with a counselor to their cabin. I get to the end of the line and ask the nurse why they are doing all of this because it is taking so long and I was being an impatient child. Her response: a parent was very upset last summer that their camper got sick, so now we are screening everyone and quarantining them if they show any signs or symptoms of being ill. I look at my brother, who was standing behind me, and yelled, "Thanks a lot." At school there's now a rule that nothing can be mass printed, even though we have a set amount of printing credit, because I blocked up the printer while printing tiled Fat Yoshi and Fat Skipper. Former coworkers of mine. Contracted employees have a maximum amount of time they can work each week. Company pushed a lot of 60-plus-year-old employees into retirement via a benefits change. A bunch of those who retired re-signed on as contracted hourly workers and started making more money than they had before they retired. I moved from the Midwest to Texas to attend college. It was the first time I tasted deep-fried okra. The cafeteria was all you could eat. The okra was like crack to me and I ate plateful after plateful. Pretty soon the rule was 2 servings per meal. My freshman year of college, I made it so that no one in not just my dorm, but all dorms on campus, was allowed to use the microwave located in each of the dorms' common area after 10 p.m., because drunk ass me went to microwave a Hot Pocket one night, and instead of setting the timer to 3 minutes, I set it to 30 minutes, which wouldn't have been a problem if I stayed there waiting for it. But drunk ass me decided at that moment, hey, you know what would be even better than being drunk? Being drunk and high, and proceeded to go back to my room for a bong hit, which turned into several, which turned into me nearly passing out, roused only by the now blaring fire alarm that made everyone else in the dorm to also have to go outside in the middle of the night. Of course, due to the whole "where there's smoke, there's fire" rule, a couple of fire trucks showed up to the action. Me and everyone else that lived in this dorm were all standing outside grumbling about what a-hole caused this, some speculating that someone was stupid enough to have pulled a false alarm. At a certain point amongst that grumbling did it dawn on me that I just left that Hot Pocket in the microwave, and that's when I started worrying that the source of all this 3 a.m. hubbub could have been me, a deep, abiding shame that was validated when I saw one of the firefighters emerge from the dorm with a charred microwave. I joined in the chorus of incredulousness from the other cohabitants of my dorm, who were shouting pleas of, "What drunken dumb fuck burned up the microwave?" and "Whoever did this is gonna get their ass beat," and similar witticisms. I figured at this point, lying was my only way out. And in the end, it worked. No one that night ever found out it was me who burned up the microwave in my drunken and stoned state of dishevelment, and was the source of the "no microwaves after 10" rule in the dorms that was in force for the rest of the time I was in school, and could still be in place for all I know. You son of bitch, it was you! Here is my flex. When I was a kid, I got so good at a couple of arcade games that I could play sometimes for a couple of hours on 1/4, or 2 or 3 depending on the game. A lot of / most times no one noticed, and it never mattered. Well, our local comic book store put up a sign limiting each player to 30 minutes at a time because of me. They had like 2 machines, and sometimes I'd hog them thinking I was cool. I'm sure I was the annoying little nerd kid in retrospect. In senior school, a friend and I got bored, so we thought it would be funny to set up rules in our emails where an email from me would be forwarded back to me, and an email from him forwarded back to him. A few million emails and a crash server later, and the IT team put a lot of restrictions on our emails out of nowhere. Checking ID at work when we have parties that contain alcohol used to be honor system until a newly hired person under 21 drank too much and vomited in the hallway. In 3rd grade, I jumped off of a very tall piece of playground equipment, smacked my chin on my knee and bit my tongue. It was a bloodbath, and the teacher passed out and hit her head off of the pavement, resulting in another bloodbath. Welp, the next morning there was an announcement stating no more jumping off the tower on the playground. The next day, the teacher's son tried jumping off of a rope swing over the schoolyard fence and broke both of his arms. The school removed all of the fun stuff off of the playground that summer. On the reason my middle school had to add a "no outside food to be delivered during school hours" rule in the handbook. For my 12th birthday, my mom brought me and like 10 other kids McDonald's during our lunch period. I guess it caused some jealousy because someone owed the principal. Technically, we didn't do anything wrong, but the next year, the rule was in the book. At my school, it was a rule to not act like a ninja. When I was young, I got interesting into Naruto, so I started acting like a ninja. 3 people saw me and started to act like a ninja as well. The teacher noticed, so she told us to stop. We stopped for the day, but the next day, we did it again. Our teacher was getting annoyed, so she gave us a bad star, a red star that meant you were bad. At the end of the week, you had to take the bad stars home for your parents to see. We got mad at the teacher, so when she wasn't looking, one of the ninjas stood up and walked slowly. He plopped the red stars from each of the ninjas' star sheet. Teacher noticed and had enough. She sent us to the principal's office. He was laughing but told us to stop. Next day, there was a rule. Don't act like ninjas. No selling things out of your locker. Ran quite the business back in junior high. Pens, pencils, sticky notes, Pokemon cards, random toys like Beyblade Pats, special milk straws that had the flavor in the straws so whatever you were drinking changed flavor, and a few other random things I'd find or people would trade me for things instead of using money. Made maybe around $300. I wish they had just let me do what I was doing. My work was honest. After I got shut down, all the kids selling things went underground. Now, instead of instant chocolate milk straws, the kids were buying weed from the quiet kid in the bathroom. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.